right. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the South Orange Historic Preservation Commission. Start off with a roll call today, please.
Chairman Hill.
Present.
Vice Chairman Barnett.
Present.
Commissioner Langzum.
Present.
Commissioner Marlowe.
Here.
Commissioner Don.
Present.
Commissioner Carter. Here. Trustee Schnall.
Here.
Village Council Sullivan.
Here. Adequate notice of this meeting had been provided to the press in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 10-4-6. In addition, notice of this meeting was posted in the Village Hall and on the village website and has been filed in the office of the village clerk. Official action may be taken. All right. First up, approval of minutes. We were behind one, but has everyone had a chance to take a look at the minutes?
Yep.
As I did not see anything. Commissioners, anyone else?
Nope.
I move to accept both minutes.
Perfect. Do I have a second?
I can't second.
Second. All in favor of accepting the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No? All right, minutes approved. That was there. All right, moving on. New business. Board of Adjustment application for non-binding review. Applicant Seton Hall University, premise 425-45 Scotland Road. Is that the Mary Lawn?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have all should have received by email a copy of the application package that was submitted by Seton Hall University to the Zoning Board of Adjustment in connection with the application that they have filed there. We have then been contacted by the village and asked to, actually it was an email from the chairman of the zoning board who advised us that they were seeking our non-binding advice pursuant to Section 7 of Ordinance 2012-09. They in that email they spelled out the section of itself and what it requires, what it doesn't require, and also asked some questions which I think were intended by the zoning board chairman to guide, from their view, our review of the submission and review of the application and the kind of advice that they were looking for. I think that was appropriate in some sense because Section 7 doesn't really tell us what criteria we're supposed to utilize in giving that advice. And before I go into that any further, I want to say that I think that what we should be doing here tonight, and frankly what I've represented to Council for Seton Hall that we'll be doing tonight, is that we will only be discussing the procedural aspects of this, because they obviously have a due process right to be here and to make a presentation. They're not prepared to do that tonight. And so what I think what we should be really talking about now is what are we going to be looking for from them? How are we going to do this? What sort of hearing are we going to have? How do we communicate our report back to the zoning board, that sort of thing.
Bill?
And
Okay.
one more thing. But right before we do that, and you go any further with that, I think Ms. Commissioner Carter, you've advised us that you work for the university. Is that right?
Right, correct.
Okay, so you should probably step down then at this point. Okay.
I
believe that I received that email, but I don't think I had an attachment
No,
on it.
none of
didn't
us
have
got the
attachment.
attachment.
Oh.
So
We didn't get the zone, that's what I was trying to say, is we didn't get
Okay,
the.
so we don't have it yet.
No.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I had an email with attachments, Kathy, that you sent me.
No.
I have
I
it up
didn't
here
find
right
one.
now. There's no attachment.
No,
on
I have it right here, there's no
It
attachment.
says Rusty Section 6 certificate.
No, there was another
But
later
prior
reading.
to that,
This is from
prior
Jet
to
Ojetti.
Rusty's comments, I sent the whole application out.
That's for Section 7.
And it might have been from Ojetti Davis,
Yeah.
and it was a forward.
Okay, well,
She
we-
sent it to me, she scanned in the entire application with
Can-
attachments, there were 3
Can you
attachments.
make sure to forward it to us then?
I can, I know that
Yeah,
I
'cause
did, but I
we
did it
have
from
Ojetti.
Ojetti. That's why I sent it early, so you guys could review it.
We have her
I see waving one.
here, but there was no attachment to it.
I thought I hit the forward, that's why I sent it, I thought I sent it
Oh,
well
I'm
in
gonna-
advance, so
All
the
right, so,
commission
Well,
could
we'll
review, so.
review it tonight anyway.
Right,
so
we're
it
not going to
doesn't
discuss
matter.
it substantively
No
tonight anyway,
problem.
right? But we need to make sure that goes around, okay? It's a fairly typical land use application. You know, we've had discussions before about what kinds of things we would ask for in our checklist item, and there were, you know, the attachments that I got included the storm drainage report, included the traffic report, you know, things that we think we've already decided in other contexts we don't need. But obviously, you know, there are elevations in there. You know, there was a discussion about the explanation of the relief that they're seeking, the project they're proposing to do, that sort of thing. So obviously, the first step is to make sure everybody has what they've submitted to the zoning board. Right?
I just did a search on Jedediah, and it didn't come up with the application.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
it
was
just says,
wondering why it was so quiet, my email.
The
Less than days.
Section 7 only says, in relevant part, that the Secretary of the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Adjustment shall refer to the Commission every application for development submitted to either board for development. This referral shall be made when the application for development is submitted to the board and before it is scheduled for a hearing. But then it says, failure to refer the application as required shall not invalidate any hearing or proceeding. The Commission may provide its non-binding advice, which shall be conveyed through its delegation of one of its members or staff to testify orally at the hearing on the application and to explain any written advice or comments which may have been submitted to the board. Now, does anybody have, who has Rusty's? Anybody have the chairman's email in
I
front of
do.
them?
Could you pass it down, thank you.
The chairman of the zoning board referred to the section and then said, advised the secretary to please refer the application to us along with these questions. 1, do you wish to comment on the historic significance of the structure or property involved in the application and the effect, if any, of the application on that significance? 2, if so, what are your comments or suggestions? 3, please set forth the historical basis for your comments or suggestions with citations where applicable. Right? And my understanding is, I wasn't there, but I did speak to Pat Dwyer about this. My understanding is that this was a subject of some discussion at their meeting, and that they authorized him to send those questions to us as the basis for what they're looking for from us. Okay? So having said that, we need, I guess, to discuss how you're going to proceed. If you're going to hear this next month, then clearly Seton Hall is entitled to make a presentation and then ask questions, and then you would develop, I guess, a list of comments on the application, which I would suggest that you then authorize me to prepare in a written form. The part of it that troubles me a little bit, but it's in the ordinance, is that having done the written report, then someone is supposed to appear on behalf of the commission to testify at the zoning board hearing. And that's always problematic because that person then is not speaking for themselves, they're speaking for the board. If a member of the zoning board asks a question, the person has to sit there and think, well, am I really authorized to say this or not? I'd almost rather, my opinion anyway, I'd almost rather is that the person would read the report if necessary, but other than that, probably not offer any additional commentary.
What if they were cross-examined?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Because,
There'll be questions. Of
yeah,
course there will.
yeah.
Right, I know. And I don't know really quite how to answer that.
Are you familiar with what the relief they're asking for is? Is it,
Me neither, I don't.
Yeah, again, I don't want
think
to go
that's a
too
big
far into
deal.
the merits of it because, there's nobody here to talk about that, but I can,
I mean, even for offering advice, we are, I mean, applications, we have authority, but advice would be something that would be outside of the application, I would assume. I mean, if they were going to change something significantly on the property, that would come back to us. But if it was something on the inside, it would just really just be what we think would be appropriate or not. I mean.
Right, remember that if they were demolishing a structure or a subdivision, or if they were changing more than, what is it again, 50% of the
Facade.
facade,
Yeah.
This
something
is a
like that?
major facade restoration.
Major
I don't-
facade.
I don't
Right.
think there's a percentage on it, is there?
I forget the language off the top. But the zoning board, I guess, has already determined that this is, the project does not entail anything that would require us to give a certificate of appropriateness.
Okay.
So that's why it's here as a, so you can make that assumption for starters, that we don't have to give a certificate of appropriateness. Those criteria don't apply. I think that they're looking for your comments on the application, and, you know, what do you think it means in terms of the significance of the structure? And you know, maybe you have some advice, maybe you'll have some advice on the, you know, facade treatments or something else related to the architecture they're proposing. You know, I mean, I think that's where it is. You probably know this already, but I can tell you that they're proposing to use it for a graduate medical program.
Yes.
They are proposing to install an entry lobby, an elevator, and an egress stairway in the school building. This is the school building now, not the Graves building. They're proposing to rehabilitate the former Graves house, which is proposed to be, well, that's the other plan was to demolish it, and use that building for university offices for approximately 28 employees. Renovations include painting, construction, and repair. Obviously, you'd probably want more specifics on that, for these proposed uses. And then they're proposing to remove the tennis courts in the back and add parking spaces. That's basically the application.
Pretty
And
much what we expected.
So it's adaptive reuse.
I guess you'd call it that.
Yeah.
And there are,
Or hoped, anyway.
in the application package, there are floor plans, not many, but there's floor plans, there are, it looks to me like there are elevations of the school, but not of the house in this package. And then, you know, some photos. So
Okay.
I don't know whether you think you would want to now list anything else you might want them to bring or to discuss. There is counsel here tonight, and of course, I can take down and communicate with them also.
Is there anything that would be in that document that would sort of estimate, say, traffic or?
There's a
time-
traffic report.
There's a traffic report, okay.
Well, can we take since we don't have the attachment, so we didn't have a chance to review it, can we, let's say, take a week to review it and then get our comments to you, each individually, as to things that we may want to ask them for?
Sure, that's fine.
Because without reviewing it, it's difficult to
Okay.
determine if there's anything else that would be significant
Okay, I could do that then.
or relevant.
Communicate to me, and I'll put it in a letter. for
Yeah.
return.
So Kathy, can you make sure everyone gets a copy again, email?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to send it through my phone, but to myself first. Maybe because of the volume, but I didn't get any return from
No, I didn't get it.
senders,
No, I
so.
got the email.
I
there
got
just
the-
wasn't
So
any
it didn't have,
attachment.
was
yeah, and
no-
I
Yeah,
did,
there
I
was
thought
no
I did a
attachment.
forward, so, okay.
Yeah.
I'll send it first thing in the morning. It's,
Okay.
I think, too large to send from my iPhone right now,
Th-
so.
There, we don't have any, we don't have any provision in this ordinance for public notice for non-binding advice, so I don't think we can compel them to do that.
Can we request it?
I think the zoning board has provided the notice on the hearing, and if anybody was interested, they would have been there, right? They would have known.
For their hearing, yeah.
Yeah.
But not for ours.
It's a permitted use. I mean, is this, they are asking for a zoning, Board of Adjustments
Yes.
variance? Because if they are, then they would have to
Yeah.
notice
No, they
at
have to
least.
notice for the zoning board. I'm just saying, we don't have to, they don't have to notice.
Oh,
here.
yeah, right.
They're in front of as you remember, the zoning board's jurisdiction is because there were certain uses that aren't permitted or a few other criteria, right? They're asking for a D variance to allow, that's a use variance, to allow for university and school uses, since these uses are not permitted in the RA 100 and RA 75 zones. That's why they're in front of the zoning board.
Because the mansion is RA 100, and I think the school is just the school, so.
Well, at one
But
point,
if
the
it
mansion
changes-
was used as a school.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I guess they would have to have another variance.
Okay.
So I think, if you let me know what it is you want them to bring, so we can tell them ahead of time, so we don't waste time with that, and I can do that. I'll communicate to them. I'll communicate that they need to be here on the 17th and make a presentation.
19th.
I'll make sure they have a
The
copy
April
of
15th.
Chairman Reeves'
April
email.
15th.
Sorry?
April
April
15th.
April 15th, sorry. I'll make sure that they have a copy of his email, and they'll have to be prepared to present sufficiently for us to be able to answer those questions. Now, again, this is non-binding advice.
Right.
I mean, we're not going to be vetoing or approving the application, but obviously, we can do our job better if they give us the information that's on the topics that we've been asked to address.
One of his questions is about the historical significance, so that would take some research on our behalf, or is Seton Hall?
I think that's Seton Hall's bit.
Okay.
If
I
I
mean, unless you
recall,
know.
if I recall, there was also an issue about some covenants. And I remember that some of the neighbors had begun some research and uncovered some information. So one of the questions is, would we publicly notice the next meeting so interested residents who have explored some of these covenants might come and report at our next public hearing?
Well, all of our meetings are public
We have to
notice.
publish all of our meetings, so we could can't we just add something in there saying that we will be hearing we will be discussing a non-binding?
That was what I was suggesting, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we only publish the notice, I mean, you could put it on the
Well,
website.
then we may
It's
want
an
to
annual
informally
notice.
let some
Yeah, it's
folks
an
know,
annual-
I guess.
annual-
is-
but we
My
have-
my point is that I know there are residents who are very keenly interested in this. And I think we should, beyond just public notice, let them know what we're doing.
So how do?
Unless we deemed it a special meeting in addition to the regular monthly meeting, and then we would have to publish that. We'd have to, we would publish that in the paper, so you could
But I don't-
consider a special
I don't think we
meeting.
have that much going on that we need to schedule an extra meeting for it.
No, I
No,
actually...
no, on the same date, you'd have a special meeting as, in addition to your regular meeting on the same, I know that sounds weird, but that's what you're suggesting, right?
No, I was in addition
Addition? Oh,
to, in
another date?
addition to, but we could publish, we can look into that.
Well, quite honestly, the other thing we can do as commissioners here is our network, because everybody here is actually involved, whether it's the Historical Society, the Montrose District Association. I mean, I would just reach out to all your friends and constituents and neighbors, because most likely between one of us here, we'll be able to touch the people who would probably have of interest, because you've spoken to them before and they've spoken to you. And I can think of a few people myself who I know would be very interested.
And the website, we can put it, we'll make sure
Yeah.
it goes onto the
If
village
I could
website.
If it goes onto the calendar too, maybe you could,
I
sometimes
don't
they
know if
put,
it could fit, I can try, we
Okay.
can try.
I thought sometimes they put what actually was being heard.
We post the agendas
Yeah.
to the website, that's a regular
Okay,
task.
so, you had another comment?
If I can just digress for 1 second, I was looking through the resolution. It doesn't specifically say anything about what percentage of a facade.
I'm not familiar with it.
I'm just pointing that out, so.
The ordinance talks in definitions, talks about destruction of front facade with a primary entrance facade facing the public street of a historic property, structure, site, or district, destruction of more than 1/2 of the original historic designated property, sites, structure, or district, or destruction of one or more historic properties, structures, sites, districts, architecture that define or is a key to its historic character or significance or character. So,
Section 2.
yeah, that's section
It says
2 under
50%.
definitions.
Right.
Okay, so that answers your question?
I just wanted to ask a question of our attorney. In general, for any hearing any meeting where we will be having a hearing, wouldn't it be prudent for us to notice the 2 historical organizations in town?
Sure.
So as a matter of course?
Yeah, I think that would be fun. We can do it. I mean, I don't know whether you need to do it formally or not, but I would think that'd be a good idea. to
Just procedurally somehow?
You can easily do Montrose.
Mm-hmm.
With a simple email, that's all I don't have, who's the president?
info@sohps.org.
I will take care of notifying both of them.
But for the record.
Just to let them know, I'll send them an email saying, hey, this is on April 15th, we will be hearing a non-binding resolution at the property of Scotland Road there, 425. Okay? Any other questions for council or any other topics regarding this? None? Okay, so we're all going to get emails into council for questions that we want to ask so that the Seton Hall's council is ready on April 15th.
Chairman, do you want to set a date for that?
We should have questions to council by,
I'll give her the weekend, how about Monday?
on Monday of next week, which would be
24th.
the 24th. Okay, so all questions to council by April 24th.
And
I mean,
that way it won't be
March
hold-
24th.
You don't have to be specific questions too, by the way. You don't have to go to that length of detail, but just topics that you think that you would want to hear addressed.
Okay, thank you.
All right. If no other top conversation part of that, would you like to rejoin us?
You can come back now.
All right, moving on. Pending matters, HPC vacant positions. Trustee Schnall, can you update us, please?
Yes, so a subset of the board and village president has met and interviewed with several candidates. These candidates came from a posting on the website, and we interviewed them. I would say one of the things that was discussed at a prior meeting is Commissioner Barnett, who is currently listed under Class B, although he's fully qualified as an architect to be in Class A. That might be one of my suggestions. So what I would do is pose it to the commissioners. If they see fit, we can put in a resolution at the next Board of Trustee meeting, which will be a week from today, to move Mr. Barnett, Commissioner Barnett, to a Class A role, thereby opening a Class B opening where one of the candidates, I think a very qualified candidate, would fit in there very nicely. And we would also name a new alternate as well. So I guess the first question is Commissioner Barnett.
I don't oppose moving Commissioner Barnett up into an A class. Does anyone have any proposals? Mr. Commissioner Barnett, do you have?
Yeah,
no?
do you have
No?
some objections?
Implications, it's
Do we have
just
to-
term,
do we have
right?
to-
If it's a recommendation, then I will just put it on, and I will submit it to the board to pass that resolution. And it will most likely be a new term. So you
Oh,
would
okay.
begin a new term as an
Okay.
A commissioner.
So if you would do that on
I
our
will take care
behalf,
of
we would greatly appreciate that.
And then, therefore, what we'll do is, at our April meeting, with your desire, we can introduce and invite those new commissioners to come to our meeting, if that passes.
That would be perfect. Do we need to, if we were going to ask them questions as a board, would we need to be an executive council for that? Or how would we, or can they just come up and we can, how?
I
Appointing new
think,
people.
well, so one of the things you can do, I suppose, is before the board votes on it at our next trustee meeting on Monday, if you'd like to ask questions then. I think once the board actually
Does it? It's
passes
official.
it,
Okay.
you can always delist them, I suppose.
No,
I don't think we can.
You could ask.
I just
We can snub them, but we can't.
That's right,
elect
just ignore them.
want to make sure we do it appropriately, so if that's not necessarily then. Okay, no, that would be fine.
Okay.
Any other questions for Trustee Schnall regarding the vacancies, vacant positions? If not, all right, remaining regular meetings for 2014 calendar updates. We all received here we all have the remaining meetings for the year. Our HPC committee, rooms to be determined, but it looks like Mondays, what is that, the third Mondays of each month? Is that-
Yes.
For the remaining of the year will be our dates. We'll probably, it looks like, from what I am told, we'll be meeting upstairs in the loft, if not here on main stage. Does anyone have any problems with this or issues with this? If not, we need to vote to accept these meeting dates, or are they already in the books?
No, we need
We need to
to
take a-
move, right, make a
Yep,
motion to
that's what I
accept.
thought. So if not, I just need a motion to,
I'll make a motion to
Just out of
accept.
curiosity,
Oh.
before we do that,
Yep.
when is Memorial Day?
It's early in May.
It's May 26th, May
I thought it was
19th.
earlier than May 26th. I thought it was the
Can't be,
second.
has to be the
It's
last.
the last Monday.
It's-
Is it the last Monday?
Always has to
it
be.
always is.
Okay, then that's the answer. Okay.
All right, then, a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the remaining meeting dates for 2014.
Second?
Second.
Second. All in favor of approving dates? Aye. Any nays? Nope. Then, all right, remaining meeting dates have been approved. Last of the pending matters, Old Stonehouse update by trustee Schnall and Chairman Hill. We have not been able to communicate about that, but as the Board of Trustees, since there was no offers for the Old Stonehouse, has there been any update on there since?
The only update, since there were no offers, it was posted in various periodicals, and it was made public that there was an opportunity. Nobody put in any bids. So currently, my understanding is the village administrator and actually the deputy are filling out paperwork for its demolition. It is not something, I guess because it is on the registry and there's, it's something that actually could take some time to go through to actually get all the paperwork approved, et cetera, but that is the process underway.
So it has to be officially delisted, though, and that's a lengthy process.
That's exactly right. That's part of that paperwork process.
Would this come to us for approval if it's on the historic preservation, historic landmarks, local landmarks?
It's a good question. I would think it would.
I would think it would, too.
I think it would come to us for approval before they could.
It's a designated landmark.
Yes, it
It is
is.
designated.
Yes, it
I
is.
don't think you can demolish it without a certificate of
So the
appropriateness.
first part would be the
Yeah.
paperwork to delist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would be binding.
It would be binding. I would assume, not to offer them any advice, but the first thing would be to go to the state and federal registers to try to get it delisted. But it would still have to come to us for approval.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting chicken or egg thing.
Yeah.
Should they come to us first and have us say that we think it's appropriate before they go to the state and the feds? Or if they go to the state and the feds said it should be delisted, then that would be very evidential toward us as to that we ought to give the certificate.
Right.
I don't really know which way to do it.
That's true. That's a good
I mean,
point.
would we
Even
have
if
the
it's-
authority to okay a demolition on state register of a municipal-owned facility?
I don't know that we would have the authority to say they could demolish it. We could say that it would be appropriate for it if they could delist it.
Oh, okay.
Right. They still couldn't demolish it without the authorization of the state. or the feds.
I have a question, though, about the bidding process. I was curious, because I had heard that there weren't any bids coming in, and so I was curious about the process. I think I reached out to Kathy, looked around, and I found that the process of placing a bid, submitting a bid to the town is very unclear, and I wondered if that played a role in the fact that there were no offers placed on the property, that I couldn't really find a location where you would actually submit a bid, and I wondered if that maybe hurt the process, perhaps. It seemed, it was sort of like a circle of go to the website, no, fill out a form, no, go to the website, and it,
Well, that's certainly disturbing.
Yeah.
Because the intention obviously was to see if we could get bids. I mean, I suppose if you felt very strongly, you could advise me to ask the board to post it again or to look into that. I mean, I suppose, I would counter, unfortunately, is if someone was interested, I think they would find a way to call Village Hall and say, I'm interested. If you would like and you think it has an opportunity to extend a period of time to ask for bids again, I wouldn't be against it. I'm not sure if I'm optimistic that it would change the result, but I still, if you found it to be a problem, I think that could be a concern.
I was just, it seemed rather confusing to me if I was, hypothetically, if I was an interested party for some reason, say, for teaching purposes or whatever.
Right.
And so I thought I would just like to sort of see what the process entails.
Sure.
And I really, it seemed very confusing, and it never seemed, okay, this is what you do. And Kat, I had a conversation with you about that too, that
I believe it was a notice of sale, and it was put on the website on the bid page. And I think the instructions for the notice of sale were any inquiries to appear at the meeting, almost like a public hearing. So I have the notice of sale. I can email it to you for your review, and if you can take it from there. And if you want it, if you're interested in having it reposted.
Yeah, I mean, if you honestly feel that there would be a chance, if there is somebody out there who just didn't hear about it or did hear about it and was not able to express interest, then I think that would be important to let us know.
Has there been any thought from the Board of Trustees of what they are going to do with it if it's just going to?
It's from my understanding, and you guys are probably quite familiar with it, the land itself is sort of, socked in the middle. There's no utilities that service it, and it's problematic in terms of what its use might be. Recreational perhaps. It hasn't been explored very far in terms of what it would be done.
That was just curiosity. Okay. Any other questions to Trustee Schnall regarding the old stone house?
Not right now.
Has there been any discussion about whether it could be made into a historic site in some regard, even though the building would be removed? Or bringing it back just to the stone part itself and leaving some of the structure of the stone wall and having some signage the way that it's being proposed for the pump house?
I was just thinking of what we did with the pump house. I mean, that's a possibility, and that would be something that I think that would make sense for this commission to consider and make a recommendation. The village, I don't think, has explored, those options, but I think that would be a good recommendation for us. We'd want to keep something remaining, and as long as it didn't get, quote, in the way of,
right.
I can't see why it wouldn't be a good.
I mean, it could be a little vest pocket park with a bench and a three-tiered sign that showed the different stages of the various architectural phases of the house with, photos.
If the commissioners would like to put something like that recommendation, I think that's a great idea.
Almost like a ruin.
Yes, a ruin, historic ruin,
Almost, it would be.
It would be a historic ruin, and, school children could visit it. It could be part of one of the historic walks that the historic districts do, so.
I'm sure we're a few months away at best.
Well, yeah, there's a significant amount of work that needs to be done, even if it was approved to be demolished, such as archaeological digs and things like that.
But with this proposal, you might not have to delist it.
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
And it might be less expensive, because I think delisting is a very expensive process.
Well, that's interesting. I will explore that. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, any other questions before we move on?
just the idea of using it as an opportunity for local archaeology, whether it's Seton Hall or another university with a small archaeology program that might want to have some on-site training for their students.
That's another
Right,
good
and
idea.
as Commissioner Marlowe said, Drew University has a big archaeology program, too.
Okay, very good, thank you.
All right, then if there's no other questions, we'll move on to discussions. Topic of discussion, SOMA TV feedback request. Commissioner Morrow.
Yes, I received an email from Howard Levison, and he had been forwarded an email from Joy Yagid, who runs or who is involved in SOMA TV, from a commissioner in the Maplewood Historic Preservation Commission, and they are interested in doing a community outreach that teaches homeowners in Maplewood and South Orange how to fix, repair, restore their historic homes. One segment could be fixing old windows, another a proper way to handle gutters. She says that we feel that through this, doing this through TV could possibly reach and be beneficial to more people than just individual lectures. So I forwarded it to Chairman Hill, and Kathy asked Joy whether or not there'd be any cost to this, because we had discussed something like this, doing community outreach. So Joy said that they have some good ideas. Marcy and she talked. They have a studio in CHS where they tape on Tuesday and Thursday evenings, and they could find an open slot to do the show on specific topics of home improvement, but you'd have to supply the guest and host. And could, with a great deal of volunteer help, do a video on site of a property that's underway. We have not, or I have not, or none of us have, approached Maplewood Historic Commission to see if they'd be interested, because I wanted to gauge whether or not we as a Historic Preservation Commission would be interested in doing this as an undertaking. I did bring it up to the Historic South Orange Historic and Preservation Society, and they were less than receptive, saying that there is so much resources on the internet. All you have to do is do a web search and you can get videos on pretty much anything that's out there. So they were not interested in it, but I still think it would be something that we'd want to discuss. So I'm bringing it to you. And that's what we're here now.
Any questions?
Would this be a weekly show, periodically? Is it is she
I
give
would
any
think-
specification?
I would think it would be periodic. I mean, you have to remember that everybody's a volunteer. It's not something that's going to be able to pull it right together
I mean,
easily.
as a part of our educational purpose, I think it could be in line with that. I know Maplewood Historic Commission has done a workshop on windows in the past, but that was quite some time ago. They did that as part of a Springfield Avenue festival or something.
The Henrik Hedden House also had done a window repair one a few years back, because I went to it to see it, and it was run by, and it was basically it was run by a contractor who repairs historic windows, and they hosted it there. And
Durand Hedden?
And he brought
Yes.
windows in various stages of repair, showing how to replace the weights and how to do this and how to do that. And so it was based towards a homeowner who wanted to repair their own windows.
So, from my understanding, if we wanted to put something together as far as to educate windows, staircases, or something regarding old homes.
I think we could approach this in one of two ways. One is that we could put a show together, and I'm sure that Joy would work with us to get it taped. The other is we could contact Maplewood and ask if we can help and participate in whatever they have in mind. Well, if you have another idea, that would be fine too. Those are just two of the ideas that I would have.
I was wondering if it has to be focused on home repair. Could it just be information about the historic nature of the community? More information, say a walking
I would think so.
Something like that.
I think the interesting point was that Joy said that they have time available. I mean, not all the time, but that they could make time available. So if it's available to Maplewood, it'd probably be available to us as well, or in conjunction with Maplewood. It's not something we have to commit to, okay? Because everybody
They're probably
knows
looking
we're all
for
stretched
content,
very thin. But it's just something, if we don't have an interest in it, we can just let it go right here. I just was wondering if anybody did have an interest, whether you wanted to pursue it.
Anybody?
I mean, I think part of it is, do we have the, I mean, it would be us coordinating people that have the expertise in general.
Yes.
To me, it seems like it would definitely introduce a little bit of conflict of interest in terms of either promoting products or tradespeople that would be doing these processes. Number one. Then number two, I would be a little bit concerned about, I don't know, litigation. I mean, in terms of if we recommend a certain treatment, say for water, anything regarding has to do with water, and then there's a leak, and then we have some sort of a stamp on it. And I don't mean to rain on the parade. I'm just thinking, I think it's a lot to bite off.
Yeah.
And then it's definitely, I mean, for me, would I like to be on a show that promotes, historic preservation? Yes, but that would be clearly, a conflict of, my own personal, place on this board.
Well, does it have to be home renovation? Maybe there's other things that could be featured, like past house tours or
Right.
history of a particular location in town, or an interview with somebody who's lived here for many years and can reminisce about the history of town.
I mean, I think one thing that we could easily put on, things that we could promote, through something like this was, how to get your house nominated for historic, state or federal historic, register. I think that would be very appropriate for something that we would do. We can certainly, I just caution anything that would go out. What would be the life of that? If we said, say, no vinyl windows or something, which I think would be sort of a guidelines, down the guidelines path. And I just think we're very young to be even making any kind of statements like that. So I just kind of worry about. I think that it is our place to promote education. I just worry about the downside of making sort of claims or something.
We could put this on the table and revisit it in a number of months if we're too young.
Commissioner
We need to grow up a little bit.
I think once we got guidelines, if we ever had guidelines, I think we absolutely have a place to be promoting them. It's just that we don't have that right now as an ordinance.
Could we get a list? Do you know the programs that the Maplewood folks have produced, let's say, in the last year? What kind of?
I don't think they've produced any. I think that they're approaching SOMA, and they copied Howard or Joy copied Howard on the email, and he forwarded it to me.
So they just want to team resources at this point?
I don't necessarily think they did. I think that Joy thought that it was important that South Orange knew about this, so she brought it to his. He's the liaison to SOMA-COM, I guess. Or he does the that stuff, whatever it is, the Telecommunications Commission or whatever. He brought it to me. Actually, he sent it to me at work. I was like, I have no opinion on this at work, but I will bring it to the Historic Society and Commission to discuss. So that's why I'm bringing it, because it was forwarded by one of the trustees.
That said, and I think I've brought this example before, maybe in a subcommittee meeting, but I'm tied or close with the Nashville Historic Preservation Commission because I used to live there, and they have a Facebook page and they put up information and helpful hints, and I think that's great. And I wish we could do that. So I don't want to say it's a bad idea. I'm just trying to think of how we would do it within our ordinance.
Okay.
Bill, I don't know if you have any comments about that.
I think that you're right to say that it's a little early, and I think those are all legitimate questions that you raised. The conflict question, maybe the liability question. I think you'd probably you could put in disclaimers on that to try to avoid that problem. And I do know that you're right that you can go on YouTube and find a video on how to rebuild and repair virtually anything. Maybe half of them probably wrong, but But it does seem like there's a lot out there already.
But so maybe the distinction is instead of the how-tos, it may be more along the architectural.
The marketing.
You know, it could be a marketing that's showing up, but even like interviewing individuals who've lived here for many years, it might be very interesting to have their perspective of what South Orange looked like 50 years ago.
There's a collection of tapes that Nancy Hines Glazer did, and she donated those to the South Orange Library. They're part of their collection. They may already be on the South Orange Wiki.
One of them, she did the history of the mural in the South Orange
Oh, that
Post
was
Office.
fabulous.
Yeah. It may already be on the South
Might be
Orange
on the
Wiki.
wiki,
If you
yeah.
haven't visited it, it's something you should look at. They have a lot of information on it.
But I'm sure they could do an interesting interview with a homeowner who has before pictures of their house and current, and these are the things I've done in my historic home, and
Yeah.
people would be interested in that. Half-hour segment.
So I would suggest that maybe we want to table this till the fall. Would that be? Just
My-
give
Tell them
yourself-
that it's something we'd be interested in exploring, and maybe, maybe members of the two commissions would like to sit down and talk about it, brainstorm a little,
Okay.
something like that.
I'm in that camp there, down the road a bit, brainstorming, come up with a better idea overall.
Okay. Well, if I have approval, I will contact Marcy White and just tell her that we were forwarded the email, and that if she'd like to get together and talk, or we can come up with a date or something.
We could possibly invite her to a meeting
Invite
to
her to
address
a
the
meeting.
board and tell us about all the wonderful things that she can offer.
Or invite us to one of theirs.
There you go. Okay, so if there's no further questions, we'll table that for another time.
Okay.
All right? Another discussion topic, Crown Castle, response to the HPC letter of objections.
Well, obviously, our letter was too late, but
Yes.
nevertheless, I think it was important that we made that statement, so.
If anyone, yeah, they came back to say that they've already gone through the process. There was a 30-day window that we had missed already, but we made the statement and went forward. If you haven't seen the post, it's a big telephone pole in the middle of, front of someone's house, is what it is. It's just a big old wood thing. It's, in my opinion, quite an eyesore, but it's there.
So, I'm sorry, so what we were what we were proposing not to happen happened?
Correct.
SHPO approved it, and because they didn't get any comments from the Historic Preservation Commission or,
So we didn't have binding authority?
Our letter was too late.
Well, we didn't have any authority under our ordinance to regulate it anyway.
But we could have given our opinion.
Yeah.
Right.
Which we did.
and
but
if we had given our opinion, it would have been required to go, they would have been required to forward it to SHPO, and SHPO might have taken it under
Okay.
consideration, maybe, but that's up to them whether or not to do that. I think, what Cardino said, that SHPO found that it was not out of character of the neighborhood.
Okay.
I didn't write it, I'm just reporting it.
But basically, so we did reply, as you all know, but we were a little late and it was already approved. So that's the topic of discussion for that. Anyone else have anything to say about that, other than?
You know, I was just wondering about that timeline. Maybe I didn't read the letter closely enough to know there was a 30-day.
Did
Said
you
the same thing. I
Oh.
didn't see, I reread the letter after receiving this response, and I did not see anything in their initial letter indicating a 30-day time frame to respond. They did submit it for consideration, so I think she leaves off by saying that she would kind of keep us posted. They sent it onward, and if they hear back, that they would, make us aware of any additional responses. So I can resend the letter to everyone tomorrow as well.
I did receive it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we would have responded faster. I just don't know the timeline. So if it was 30 days, when did we actually receive the letter so that we had the 30 days to respond? It's
But I
hard
don't
to
know
know.
30 days starts from when we receive the letter or
When the town,
other
When the
agency
village
receives the
receives
letter.
it.
So we may have gotten it and had like 13
day.
minutes to
Right.
respond.
Right, it was a courtesy letter,
13
basically.
Right, basically.
So, but just to bring that up, that's what has happened. So if there's no further discussion topics, I'm going to move.
I have one. I'd like kind of an announcement discussion. I just want to make an announcement that on Saturday at the South Orange Public Library, the South Orange Public Library, Seton Hall, New Jersey Catholic Historical Commission, and Pipe Seton Hall Irish Society, as well as the South Orange Historical and Preservation Society, are sponsoring a lecture workshop on Introduction to Irish and Scotch-Irish Genealogy and You. It's the executive director of the Ulster Historical Foundation and Ms. Gillian Hunt, who's a research officer there. It's at 1 p.m. at the South Orange Library. Should be
You'll be
interesting.
there, right?
I'd love to be there. I have prior commitments, but I'm not happy about. But going to a Broadway play and out to dinner, you know.
Well, thank you for that. So if anyone's interested, 1 o'clock at the
1 o'clock, it's 1 to 4:30,
1 to
so it's half a
4:30.
day.
Wow.
And it goes through a lot of information about how to use the internet to do your research and what happens when you hit a brick wall and where to go from there and how to research the information where there was destruction of records, where to go.
It's open to anyone, even
It's
people
free of
outside
charge,
South Orange?
yes, it's
Yeah.
open to everyone.
Just
Can you
pretend
send
you're
that
Irish.
again? Or send it by email to us? Because
Sure.
I might forward it to some other
Sure.
people who don't live in South Orange.
Sure.
Sounds like it would apply regardless of your ethnic heritage, so.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it would, I think it would. I don't think that it's, I think it was a tie-in to St. Patrick's Day, but not necessarily limited to that. It gives you a lot of information.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. Moving on then. Any other discussion topics? Real quick. Anyone? All right, then. Subcommittee updates. Village Master Plan, Historic Preservation Plan Element. Trustee Schnall, just to update you, we're winding down the road here for hopefully, or putting together our package to hopefully present it to the Board of, the Planning Board and the Board of Trustees to get an element into the our Village Master Plan for a historic section. We are drafting that, and just wanted to make you aware that we're looking for someone to champion this and down the road here. But I know that the subcommittee for the master plan met this past week, and they're reviewing, and we're in edit mode of putting all our topics together.
The timing is good because we actually have the RFP out for the master plan to be redone. So we've actually picked out which elements need to be redone or not. I will go back and make sure and see where it stands with regard to the historic preservation element.
Perfect.
Well, there is no HPC element right now.
Okay, so we would be
so it's-
introducing the...
We'd be
So this
introducing-
is, yeah, we were asked to draft it.
Yes.
Well, so the good news is that what we're saying is that if we're going to be responsible for it, we do not need to put out the RFP. Hopefully, if ours is sufficient, we would not need to go to a professional, or...
Well, it would have to be reviewed by the town planner at minimum,
Okay.
and the planning board has to approve it. I believe that's required.
Right, but I think what he's saying is you're not going to have to hire a consultant or include that scope of work
That's-
in the RFP for the
Exactly.
planner you're hiring to do the plan, which is probably true.
Okay, that's
They'll have to
good.
look at it.
Kathy, this should be on next month's agenda, that we would be presenting this to this board.
Okay.
That's very good.
Actually, we
So
should
then we
be
wanted to
presenting
know
it
that-
sooner.
Well, would that be an executive session, or would that be an
No, it's just,
open,
I think we're going to send an email to this group.
Right.
And then,
discuss it?
We're going to have a
Yes.
discussion on it.
yep,
Oh,
yep.
okay.
Right, would that be the best way to do that,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan? So we'll send you the complete document, and you make your own comments on it, and then bring them to the meeting, correct?
How
don't
soon do you think you're
bring
gonna
them-
have
Right,
that?
it's, yeah,
It
it's
has
not
to
like...
be an open
Yeah,
discussion,
but,
right?
right, but it's not like a hearing where you've got, you have due
can
process
give us a
rights of
couple
people
weeks.
that are going to be affected. You can circulate a document like that, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
So can individual commissioners then send us back their comments individually,
That's okay.
but not reply all? Or can?
I think for this kind of thing, as long, because it's not affecting a client, I'm sorry, an applicant,
Okay.
I think that's okay to do it that way.
Okay.
So when the subcommittee sends out the report to the rest of the committee, feel free to comment on it and send it back to us, and then we'll have a discussion topic on it so we can edit it and hopefully then push it down the road and present it to planning board and the board of
Right.
trustees.
Now, sorry.
No, please.
Prior to that, I think Commissioner Langston wanted to review, right? Didn't you want,
I
you
said
said
I
you'd
was
like.
more than willing to do
willing
it, but I couldn't wait the 2 weeks now since you're that close.
We'll send out the email. and you
Right,
can-
they're saying, you're that
It's up
close,
to
I might
you.
as well wait till you have
Okay.
the draft finished now. I
Okay.
just thought to give you input as you were going along, but since you're sort of there now.
We're
We've been working along.
moving right along on that. So, but that's the update for that particular
Okay.
subcommittee. Any other questions regarding that? No, if not, the next subcommittee, Pump House, where are we at with that?
Oh, I don't have an update on the pump house.
No pump house
Yeah,
update?
I do.
Yeah.
You do?
Yes. I've been speaking with Salvador Renda, the South Orange engineer. We've been corresponding. I mentioned a little bit of that at the January meeting. They are making plans, moving things along. I also, Janine Bauer actually reached out to me as a member of the River Greenway committee, and we had a few short conversations, and we ended up both communicating to Mr. Renda about just finding out where they were, where the town is in the process. And he actually invited us to attend the next Public Works and Infrastructure meeting because they might want to discuss the pump house and the status of it and what their plans are. But they also said that their meeting was actually had a very full agenda, so that maybe we would have a separate meeting. But in the meantime, Janine Bauer, one of the main reasons she reached out to me was because there's a Girl Scout in town who was interested in taking on a South Orange project, and Janine thought that perhaps some sort of volunteer project that involves the pump house might be appropriate for a Girl Scout award project. So we were brainstorming a little bit about what that might mean.
A whole troop or one Girl Scout?
One girl,
Wow.
yeah. So we were just sort
Maybe
of.
she could tackle the stone house as well.
One girl.
So it may be either a silver or gold award that she's working towards, but she's very interested. I think she's actually younger than that. I think so she's interested in doing a volunteer project, and they thought maybe we could, have her involved in this, although we don't quite know yet where we're going with it. But as I mentioned in the January meeting, I've been doing some research in the area, and I had mentioned to you the person who had mentioned that their relative had been decommissioned from the Army and was living in the area near the pump house. And so I've been doing some research, going through the historic records in South Orange and the library, and we've actually come upon some maps from the early 1800s that indicate that these buildings were actually there, and these maps they've been changed over and over again, but the information is still clear that there were actually buildings down there, military buildings, and I reached back out again to our friend who again reiterated that it was his cousin, in fact, and his wife who lived in one of these little barrack-type houses until they ended up buying a house in the community. But just him coming back from the war. This was where they were settling some of the military. So I'm still trying to unearth some more of that. I'm going to be reaching out to the archivists at Seton Hall because they apparently have more of these records too. So I'm just trying to find out as much as I can and kind of recreate the timeline and find out exactly what we have there. And I think it would be of interest to the community. And it's also in conjunction with the pump house, which is they're all in the same vicinity. And one of the things that links both of these things together is the fact that you can see in the old maps the railroad tracks that the Morris and Essex line that went through. They had a number of spurs that sort of pulled out right next to the pump house and stopped right there. And so they seem to be very active, and that was probably why the military housing was there. So I'm just trying to put it all together and do as much research as I can and see if this whole area could potentially be something that we might want to memorialize in some way. Mr. Renda invited us to the meeting on March 20th. They actually asked if I had a proposal, which I don't because I'm still doing my homework on it, but I have some ideas of things we might be able to do in the meantime.
Great.
Great.
Terrific,
Yeah.
thanks.
Nice.
Interesting. Nice update. Thank you very much.
Very nice.
All right. Any questions or anything regarding that? Nope. Then if not, we're going to move ahead. Open it up to public comments. Anybody? No? All right.
You sure?
You sure?
Are you sure, Alyssa?
If not, if there's no public comments at this time, then look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn the meeting. Second?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.